That's something we have gone to great lengths to try and balance. And there's a lot of good coalition partners on the ground that we've been able to build up ties with through this campaign. So yeah, when I think of campaigns that I'm proud of being engaged with on the chapter level, the People's Survey is first and foremost in my mind.
Thank you so much, Austin. Really appreciate that insight on what it's like to work in Virginia. Next up, Andrea, would you like to talk about New York City DSA?
Yeah, I can speak about a really cool campaign that we have that's like currently ongoing. This Tax the Rich campaign, which I think is like hands down the coolest thing that our chapter has ever done. And like, I don't know, it just really shows me like how much we've matured over the years. And I'm really interested too in like DSA building up its issue-based campaign work and becoming like stronger in that area. So I've been really proud to see what we've done. But basically this is the first like issue-based campaign where we have had like a really tremendous field operation. And we got a lot of help putting that together from people who like traditionally have worked on our electoral campaigns. Obviously, like we've had success in NYC DSA with our electoral campaigns. Like that's what you know, DSA in our chapter is known for, is like mobilizing like hundreds of people around our elections and like winning. But it hasn't like translated like that same like excitement and that same like volunteer mobilization through our issue-based campaign work. And now we have this extra muscle too of like, we won 4 statewide races last year. So we have those DSA members in office and we've been building a really close relationship with them. Like we talk to them on the phone, like with representatives from all the working groups and stuff weekly to go over like strategy and what's happening with other legislators and like just talk deeply about our campaign. But anyway, so the Tax the Rich campaign is like a genuinely citywide effort, like multiple working groups are working on it. In New York State, like every year, April 1st is the deadline for when a budget has to pass, but every year Governor Cuomo has put forward an austerity budget and we haven't had the power to fight it in the past. And it's, you know, year after year, it's like slashed funding for public hospitals, which really was detrimental as we went into the pandemic because he had like cut hospital beds over the years, cuts funding for the MTA, cuts funding for schools, like has not for years has not been funding NYCHA or public housing. So it's like fallen into complete disrepair and has never like, we've never funded climate. Like New York State is on like 5% wind and solar. So in the past, like we've known this is like an opportunity for NYC DSA to work on. We just hadn't had the power to like intervene in the budget in a strong enough way. But this year, DSA members spent a lot of time like writing tax bills that would generate $50 billion in revenue in taxes on the rich, like written by DSA members, and spent a lot of time like organizing a statewide coalition that like stood together around these bills and would really like fight Governor Cuomo and pressure the legislature to like raise taxes on the rich. And then our electeds were like a really important piece of that as well, like really using their bully pulpit and also like having sort of like an inside outside strategy with them where they like were able to like, you know, they can tell us like what's happening in Albany in the capital. And we've taken that and have like organized like a ton of phone banks into target like legislators, like calling their electeds and having their electeds like pressure them, like call their offices and ask them to tax the rich. It's actually really refreshing, I think, to like talk to New Yorkers about something that's not an electoral campaign. Like as nice as that is, like it's a really beautiful thing to like talk to people and just ask them if they support taxes on the rich, and those phone banks have been going really well. Like most people, I would say like over 50% of the people I've talked to on the phones, like I transfer them to their legislator and you can hear them like leave an angry message, and it's really fun and rewarding. But yeah, most people are on board. It's like a huge opportunity to really like just show like the austerity that has like crippled New York over the years and like name capitalism as the enemy, and like just a really agitational campaign, which has been cool. So we've been doing like the phone banks on legislators, also doing like a bunch of rallies on people as we get closer to the budget passing, and And because it's COVID and we can't like knock on doors, we've been leaving like beautiful door hangers that have the legislators, like a big photo of them with their phone number. And I think we just passed like 100K doors. So we've hit like 100K doors, and I don't know how many phone calls, but it's been like a really nice thing to like see all the different like chapter priorities come together on this one issue, because obviously like a budget like flows into so many other things like socialized medicine and public power and a Green New Deal, and canceling rent and funding housing and things like that. And I think it's like, yeah, it's really like given us the tools to like make our other issue-based campaigns stronger, and made our electeds more accountable to us too, like having that close relationship. It's cool to like exercise that power with them.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's incredible. And I think it's very timely considering that a lot of municipalities and state budgets are on the chopping block, so to speak, by centrists and corporatists because citing the pandemic. So thank you for that thorough description of the campaign. Let's go to Jason R. from Central Connecticut.
Yeah. So I guess when thinking about my chapter signature campaign, I'm going to be stealing Shanti's answer in part because my chapter stole her chapter's homework. We've been focusing on right to counsel since January, or the beginning of January. A little bit of history, my chapter in May, I believe, when we had a major restructure, we had a housing justice group start that was just starting to meet. They were doing some light canvassing, flyering in New Haven, where we had the majority of our membership, calling up our members on lists, trying to get some interest from them on what housing work they'd be interested in doing. And through that and our participation in the Cancel Rent Coalition in Connecticut, we identified, in partnership with some members of ours who are lawyers, the National Lawyers Guild and the CT for Housing Center, sort of pinpointed on right to counsel as something that we could potentially get on the legislative agenda in Connecticut. There was another effort to do so by the CT Bar Association, a sort of a weaker right to counsel that was going to be like a pilot program in a few cities in Connecticut. So we had our members similarly draft up their own legislation, and we brought it to legislators ourselves in the form of a petition. And we got about 1,000 signatures on that in a couple of months. It was pretty amazing. And now 3 months later, since we passed that own resolution in our chapter, we got it through the housing committee. During an interview that a friend of mine, a comrade, was giving on a radio show, got the announcement that the vote passed, that is going to the floor with some substituted language that you can expect. But it was a major win for considering our chapter had been nearly dormant like a year ago. And just like a similar comment, like my chapter, I was one of the Bernie leads in my city for my chapter's independent expenditure campaign. Back in about a year ago, I think, almost exactly to this day, we canceled our watch party for the debates. That blew my mind that it's already been a year, and so much has changed in that time. So for Right to Counsel, we're trying to, now that we've got it through the Housing Committee and we have about 40 organizations signed on as co-sponsors, including the CT AFL-CIO, New England Joint Board, which is local of Unite Here, as well as a lot of organizations. We've managed to, we're shifting now to like how to keep this coalition permanent and not just make it like our all-encompassing work as a DSA chapter. And through this, we've actually managed to start some conversations with our members in Hartford about starting a tenant union in their own building. That we believe is almost, I think it's official now, I think. I don't want to, spoil where it is, but they unionized, I think, a 19-person building. It's obviously like it's smaller than probably some other cities and states, but we're happy about it. It's a good start. They won a small fight already about access to their mail, so we're really excited about that. And we're also figuring out how this work can translate into building out branches, because one of the things we realized is how much that, and yeah, we've got a member who is now in New York helping out with the CT Right to Counsel Coalition too, which I'm really happy to hear. One of the things we realized is like a lot of our branches were left very barren by COVID, and also like the way our chapter was organized before COVID. So realizing that, we've really been using Right to Counsel to give our branches something to organize around to start, just to get started. My mutual aid group, for example, we've hooked up with a tenants organization. I wouldn't call it a union yet, but maybe one day, who they organize within a 1,200 unit, I believe, apartment complex here in Bridgeport, Connecticut. It's probably one of the largest in the city. Majority Black women, Latinx women. And we've been working with them because they have their own mutual aid group, and we deliver an absurd amount of food to their residents. So figuring out how to work with them has been a major boon for my branch. We've been getting a lot of them to give testimony when the Right to Counsel hearing was on. And now we're trying to figure out how to just deepen these relationships and make it more permanent, and see how we can grow our own branch, because it has been a long year, but it's been good. So I'll leave it off there and see more questions. But
Thank you so much, Jason. Yeah, it is really insightful to hear all the different types of campaigns that the different chapters are doing, from electoral to legislative to non-electoral and non-legislative. So it's really happy to hear the variety of work that's being done by DSA chapters. So let's move on to the next question. DSA back in 2016 was an organization that had roughly 5,000, 6,000 members, and today DSA has over 95,000 dues-paying members. Of course, this means that this also means there are a lot of people for whom DSA is the first ever political organization that has been part of. There are a lot of people who are paid dues but don't know how to get involved. So how does your chapter onboard and integrate new or paper members? And what are some strategies your chapter has adopted to increase member involvement? And I will pop the question to Andrea.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I can explain our the way we're set up. I don't know how many members we have. I meant to look it up before. I think we're probably at like 8,000 right now, and probably like a significant number of that is there are a significant number of paper members in our city. So we've tried a few things, but the way we're structured is we have branches in all the boroughs, and then in Brooklyn, where we're really large, we have 3 different Brooklyn branches. And 2 in Manhattan, 1 for the Bronx, 1 for Queens, 1 for Staten Island. And that's really the place where like we facilitate like one debate like on resolutions that would go to like then our chapter-wide leadership body, which has representation from all those branches. And also a space for like political education. Like that's supposed to be like a warm, welcoming space for new members, where they can learn about like our campaigns, what we fight for, like what socialism is. Yes, I'm from Queens DSA, so I agree that Queens DSA is the best branch. But yeah, that's sort of like political education. And then we've also, you know, like our chapter mobilizes around big campaigns, like this Tax the Rich campaign that I just spoke about. Like we had a big week of action in December, which felt really good too, because it felt like, you know, like we had, and we were doing it safely. Like it was mostly like big phone banks. But it just felt really good to like mobilize the entire like membership again. So that was a thing that we really focused on, getting people like re-engaged in the campaign by like calling them, texting them, just prioritizing that. That was like a big thing that we wanted everybody to do. You know, and it's the same like for our electoral campaigns when it gets closer to the election. But from there, branches have tried some really creative things. Like one of our Brooklyn branches has like a thing that they do regularly, I think weekly, called like call your comrades, where they are just like going through the entire membership list that they have and trying to have like deeper organizing conversations with people, just like asking about like, are they involved in DSA? Like, you know, explaining to them, like sort of trying to bring them deeper into the organization, which I think is like a really, that's probably like the coolest thing that I've seen us do, is like just trying to have those like one-on-ones with like everybody in the chapter. And those seem to work pretty well.